authors. Welcome to Author Nation. I am Melody Owen, and this is your go-to place for everything you need to be a successful nonfiction author, from planning to promotion and everything in between. And today I'm doing an interview with an author, Janet Walmsley, who was born and raised in Manitoba. That is in Canada, for anyone who's not Canadian. Janet was a dental assistant and hygienist, as well as a head marketer for a company. Then later in life, she became a professional working actor, talent scout, and acting teacher and coach. She is an advocate for shining a positive light on autism, as her daughter Jenny was diagnosed with it, which prompted her to write the book we're going to be talking about today, The Autistic Author and Animator. And it is about Jenny's journey through Janet's eyes. And the other thing I just want to add in that when I did local events here in Vancouver, Janet came and spoke to the group about doing book signings. She is the queen of book signings. Please welcome Janet. Hey, Janet, how are you today?
Oh, hi, Melody. It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to be on your show here. And thank you for that lovely introduction. You know me inside and out.
I do. You've spoken for me before, and I know you well. But let's just you've done so much, right? Dental hygienist and head marketer and acting coach and mom and author. So tell me a little bit about you and your background that brings you this wealth of life.
Since I was a young girl, I remember my parents telling me that I was just a goer. I just wanted to do anything and everything. Like even when I was in junior high and high school, I was doing drama. I was doing the plays. I was in our school chorus, our choir. I was doing volleyball, basketball, cheerleading. I mean, I was just doing everything, and I've just extended it on to my life. And I actually, when I finished high school, I was 17, and like you said, I lived in Manitoba in Canada. We sound very Minnesotan. And what I did was I had the opportunity to go to acting school in Vancouver and in a place in Toronto. But my mother looked at me and said, "You're going to get a real profession." And I went, "Oh, okay." So because she didn't feel, but I realized afterwards she meant well. She wanted to make sure I made some money and could take care of myself. So that's why I ended up going into dental assisting hygiene, which I loved. I loved it. And then after 27 years, I said, I've been in the mouth too long. It's time to get out. So I decided I had an opportunity to do marketing for a company. And I worked through telephone, and I worked all through the States and Canada, which I loved, and I learned a lot from that. And then when I ended up being separated from my husband, my son was the one who said, I know you love acting. I see it in your yearbook. Go audition for this play. And I said, I'm not going to audition for a play. I was 41. I hadn't acted since I was 19. Went and auditioned for him, booked the role. And then after that, that's got me into the theater first, and then film and TV and voiceovers and things like that. Yeah,
I've just learned,
which bleeds into the talent scouting and the coaching, and now I'm teaching a class called Shifting Lanes, which is for people, anyone out there, who wanted to get in acting in their early life, but just couldn't because life got in the way. So it's for people 35 plus who want to maybe try it out now and see what it's like. It's for novice actors who maybe have just done a little bit but need to learn more, and also for background actors who want to cross over to background acting. So this is something new that's just come up. I just did my first month classes of it, and it went really well. And it's nice to see people who want to live their dream and go for it. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yes. And that's certainly something that I think that you can inspire people toward. And I just learned something new about you, because I didn't know it was your son who egged you on to get back into. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yes, he told me, he says, "Mom, you're doing so much for Jenny because of her autism, and you're always there for me." And he says, "But I want to see you do something for yourself." Because I was working dental assisting. I was working like an 8-hour job, and then coming home, working with Jenny, and then being with him and doing it on my own. And he just said, "You need to do something for yourself." And he pushed me because I wasn't going. So when I got the phone call saying, "Oh, the cashier goes, we'd love to have you play this role," I went, "What?" Like I never thought it. I go, "What have I got myself into?" But Best thing. So love to Christopher.
Yeah, what a beautiful son you have. Wow.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, let's talk about the book. So when
Yes.
you decided to write the book, and we'll get into the book in just a minute, when you decided to write the book, why did you decide to write a book?
This is really funny how it came across because I never thought I'd ever write a book. And it happened when I went to take Jenny to go see Julie through Influence Publishing because a friend told us about her. And we went to this event they had, and I was talking to them about Jenny, but they weren't doing fiction at the time, but they were doing nonfiction. And I just started talking about Jenny's journey with autism, and she says, "Oh, we've been dying to have someone do a book on autism, but they always pan out. It doesn't work." And all of a sudden I went, "Oh, I think maybe I'd like to do a book on autism." And then I thought, what have I just said? Just like the acting, what have I just done? And then before you knew it, I said, you know what? I want to do this. I really want to write this book. So that's how it came to be. But I did ask Jenny first because I didn't want to be bringing her life out in the open unless, and at first she did want me to, but then she said, "Mom, yes, go do it." She says, "If we can help one person or one autistic family, then we've done our job." So thank you to Jenny too.
Yeah. So just a little background, the book you wrote is called The Autistic Author and Animator. And just so everyone knows, Jenny is also an author. She writes fiction. And so when you went to see Influence Publishing, you were going to help Jenny publish her book, which she did, right?
Yes.
And so the idea was to help Jenny publish her book, and then you ended up writing your own book. Just to be clear, because you may not know that Jenny is also an author.
Oh, right. Yes, she is.
She writes a fantasy, right?
Yes, her second book's coming out. We're hoping in May, the second sequel to it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So Jenny gave you her blessing to write this book about her or her through your eyes. So what is the book about? Tell us a little bit about what it's about.
Well, this book, I say these verbs or these words with it. It's a book that's engaging, it's inspiring, it's eye-opening, and it's through my eyes, a mother's eyes, going through a journey and watching her daughter go through autism. There's a whole different viewpoint that goes from the person who has autism themselves to a parent who watches it, to then also the hidden ones that don't get as much explained about, which I hope we can talk about, is the siblings. So I wanted to write a book that showed a family who was shockingly given, or a mother who shockingly given a child a little bit later in life, like 2 or 3 years old, to be told they have autism. And I didn't even know what autism was back then. So it's really going through the whole journey, step by step, of how this came to be, how it affected us, what we did with it. A lot of people go through the cracks because they believe what the doctor said. But I write my book when I was told that Jenny would never talk, do well in school, be where her peers are, to put her in a corner, that life was bleak. I remember walking out of that specialist room saying, that's not going to happen. So I pushed for every support, and that's what the book is giving and bringing out. It's like people say to me when they've read the book, it's like sitting across the kitchen table from you and hearing you converse about what you did with autism and how you took the positive of it and never looked back at the negative, the trials, the tribulations it brings out. But it's like in the back of the book, it's the perseverance, it's the courage, it's the strength, it's the endurance that a mom has, but it's also the determination and the willpower of a daughter who gives that, and they intertwine together. And that's what the book shines about.
Yeah. And it's, if I may say, it's about breaking barriers, because to be told your daughter will not speak, you might as well, put her in an institution. She doesn't have a future. She's college educated. She's an author. She's working on her second book. Who they told you she was going to be, and who her capacity in life to be as successful as she is, that's about breaking barriers and
Oh,
not listening to people who want to put up obstacles because they've done their whatever research, or they have their mindset, and they don't understand that that's not reality.
yes, that's exactly. It illustrates one's full potential. It's a very striking narrative because the raw moments are in there as well, because you have your happy moments because you see where she's at now, considering what I was told, but you also have the real raw moments of the bullying, going through the academics. But it is a testament, this book, and a striking narrative in showing that autism, like you said, is no barrier to success and fulfillment of a rich, fulfilled life. That was my intent of this book. That was the essence of why I wrote everything in this book, to show families that there's hope, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that there is life. I had so many people coming to book signings or speaking engagements that are just crying, saying, thank God I read your book. I feel like I now have hope. I feel like we are going to have a life, because they just feel that life is done for them and their child. But it doesn't have to be. But that is when a parent needs to be, as I talk about in the book, you have to be a sounding board, a rock, a voice for your child. Yes, you're going to go through the ups and downs, but truck through the positive. Take from the negative a positive, but there's a positive of autism. It doesn't always have to be looked at negatively.
Yeah, I think you've answered this question. But just maybe a 30-second pitch. What is the promise of the book? If I'm a parent and I'm in the bookstore and I'm looking at this book and the front cover and the back cover and I'm flipping through it, there's some promise you're making to me as the reader. What is that promise?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question when I saw that. The promise I want to give parents here is to give them the insight and to take advantage of a beautiful world that they can have with autism. I don't like this word never, but I have to never give up, never look back, push forward. Life, your future with an autistic life doesn't mean that it's over. And even though there's the hard times, the negatives, you can pull through and push through to the positive. I think that's the most important thing I wanted this book to do, was to give hope, but give realistic hope. I know there's different levels of autism, but what I am saying is, please, 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 for your child, give them the peak of whatever level they're at. Don't let it slide. Don't let it go through the cracks. Yes, you might have to give up a bit of your life, but you brought them into this world. They're your baby. They're your child. You can give them a beautiful world with autism. At first, I write in the book, at first it seems like, oh my God, my life is over. I've been hit like a truck. I don't know what to do. And you have doubts because what doctors say, what your family says, but that's when you have to just, I always think like a bull, dig your heels in and just boom, truck through those trenches and just go for it.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And so do you. You deserve it as an autistic family, but your autistic child deserves it as well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's amazing. I'd love to, that's a great segue into what I'd really like to talk about is, you got Jenny's blessing, right? You had Christopher's blessing, but you were writing about these two independent humans, and so how did you maneuver through that? Did you get permission along the way? Did they read it? What was that book journey like when you were actually writing not just about yourself but about other people? And how did you maneuver through that? And what advice would you give other authors around that?
No, that is such a good question, because I know to answer this, I'll try not to get emotional, because there's a mixture of emotions that went through this book. And even though some of it was very traumatic to go through, I would like to tell people who want to write a book about what's happened through their lives, it's very therapeutic. It was extremely therapeutic. I mean, I went through the ups and downs in this book because I had to go through those moments of the bullying that Jenny went through. And yes, I was the mama bear, but she went through some horrific bullying. Socialization was always hard. I just remembered all the number of times she came to my vehicle bawling because of bullying that she went through, getting through her academics, which she worked darn hard for. So she went through that. So there was a lot of low points that I had to go through, but there was a lot of high moments. And those high moments could cancel out the low moments in such a way that I was able to look at autism as a joy. So every time I went through those feelings and going through some emotions that I wanted to write about her bullying and the anti-socialism she got, I also went through what was good. One of the things I did want to mention, and one of the things why I brought it in my book, and it always brings me happy tears and some sad tears as well, is talking about the sibling, is talking about Jenny's brother. Yeah. Because Jenny's brother, as every parent knows, when you have more than one child in the family, an autistic child does take up a lot of your time. Yeah. But Christopher, thank God, understood that. He was never jealous. He never got mad. I did give a lot of my love and care to Chris as well. He was a teenager because he was a bit older than Jenny, when she was born in that. But he knew that her being autistic, I had to give that extra time and support to her, which he totally understood. And he was always there for his sister. And I think siblings get sort of put in the background. Everybody's always thinking of the child who has it or the parents, what they're going through. But that sibling is there just as much, if even more so, in what they're going through, because, they have to, a little bit of that time that they're used to getting with a parent is kind of set aside because of all the time they have to give. Not saying it's 100%, but there is a little bit extra time you have to give to an autistic child. I didn't write too much about it in my book, but I went through one hell of a time with my ex because he did not want anything to do with the autism. So I ended up being a single parent through this, and single parents who are mums or dads with autistic children, that's even more of an episode to go through. I was very happy to talk about people like her teachers who were 100% there for her, and the kids who became Jenny's friends. And it didn't matter that Jenny was autistic or the things that she had. They were there for 100%. It didn't embarrass them at all. But then there were the others that made sure that Jenny knew that she was different. But I think a big joyful but also sad part is her dog, the therapeutic Mr. Sparkles, who was with us for 14 years, and we just celebrated his death, his anniversary. He lived at 14, but he knew when Jenny was going through things, and he was always there for her. It was her dog. So I found in writing this book and speaking about all these different avenues I went through, it did play on your emotions, and it did tug at your heartstrings. And there were so many different ones. There was happy, there was sad, there was mad because of the bullying and but I also had to cap it to find out who was doing the bullying and go to, the counselor, the teachers, and come together as one. And then in the middle of writing this book, and I write about that too, I found out I had breast cancer. I had a double mastectomy and immediate breast reconstruction, and Jenny and I were planning to publish this book together. So I got her done for the deadline. So there's so many things a person goes through a book, whether it be happy, sad, mad, frustrated that, I got to get this done. However, it's a learning experience. I learned so much from this in my life and who I was as a person, who my ex was, who my daughter is, who my son is, who the people were in my lives that were there for me. So yeah, it was quite a journey and an avenue to go through on so many different levels. Yeah. I hope I answered that correctly.
No, that's great. Yeah. Did your kids have any veto rights to content, or did they read it before it was published? Did they give you feedback? How did that work?
Yeah, no, and I did have quite a serious conversation with Jenny, because I wanted this book to come out okay. I wanted it to shine a positive light for her, and I wanted to make sure that what I was using and what I put in. So she had seen my mapping of what I wanted to do, and I explained to her, what I was going to do in the book, and I wanted to make sure that everything was being okay for her, especially the bullying, because that's a hard one for her. Mr. Sparkles, I mean, every time Mr. Sparkles is mentioned, poor Jenny, the tears start flowing, which I understand that was her best friend. I mean, she does have some best friends that are human, but Sparkles was her best friend and a very therapeutic friend. So I talked to her about everything. And I had to know that she was going to be okay with what I was writing. So that's very, very important, especially when you're doing a nonfiction book and your other family members, friends, or whoever's involved. With my son, I wanted to make sure it was okay with him. Christopher's a bit more private, a bit more, he goes, oh, I don't want any attention. He's not so much. So when he said, oh, Mom, when I read that, he just going, oh, but he was okay. I know deep down, he likes that I did that because he wanted, he wants people to know he is there for his sister and he loves his sister. And there was no jealousy. There was nothing. He just wanted his sister to be okay. And they still have a very close bond. So yes, very important. I went through it with Jenny and with Chris and with other people that I wanted to bring in my book. I talked to people about this to make sure it was going to be okay.
Yeah, no, and that's the advice I would give to people. It's like, look, if you are writing about other people, let them read it, let them look through it, let them read over the dialogue you say happened, let them read over the actions you say they took to make sure that there's some semblance, like there's some agreement there, right? Just writing memoir is not about a war against anyone. It's about working together with everyone to put together a memoir.
Yes,
that is true, right? And so that's really good to hear. That's really, really great advice.
Yes, and that's what I did with Jenny's teachers too. I got a hold of her teachers and I said, is there anything in particular, because this is the way I would like to talk about you, but is there any in particular that is this going to be okay to say it this way, or is there something you want to say about Jenny as well? So there was kind of a give and take there with it.
And were people receptive to the idea and willing to participate?
Yes, I was very fortunate, right from doctors to teachers to friends. Brer Rabbit Daycare were awesome because they were our angels. They were our gift from God because they did such marvelous, loving, caring, genuine caregivers of Jenny. I mean, we even went to autism workshops together. Same with the speech therapist, the play therapist. Worked all together we're still in contact with them. We stay at the Brer Rabbit Daycare place at their home when we go to the Okanagan. So we became a family that was all in the same avenue, love and caring for Jenny, so that her future would be a positive and a golden one.
Yeah. Brilliant. So I just one kind of last question before we get into a little bit more about reading an excerpt and where you can buy the book. I'm a parent and I want to write a book about my child. I want to write our story or my child's story. What is the best advice you can give me?
I really feel that you have to put out the pros and cons of what should go in your book, and you should do that with yourself individually, and then you should get together with your child on writing that book. And then you I call it, and this is what I learned at this workshop I went to, it's mind mapping. Mm-hmm. And you go through the whole life scenario, the essence of what you want your book to be about. Mm-hmm. And you intertwine that all together with both your feelings and your viewpoints and your memories, but also with your child's.
Yeah.
And put that together. I think it's very important that you really look down and look at what the actual core is that you're wanting to bring across here. What is it that's in your innermost being that you want to make this story, and you want to not only share it with friends, but you want to share it to the general public, okay? I wrote my book not only for the autistic and this might help anyone who's wanting to write a book in this regard of a child. I wrote it not only to share her story for the autistic community, to give them hope, I also wrote it for the general public, to shed the stigma box that still surrounds autism and to reveal or enlighten people that these individuals are a beautiful asset, not only to our society, but to the workforce. So many autistic individuals are not being employed because they're autistic, and that's not fair. Where you've got a place, for example, in Germany, who likes to only hire autistic people because they're so driven, they're routine, and they get the job done. And there really needs to be more of a shining light to what autistic individual is and what autism is about. Still in this age, I have parents coming to me at book signings and speaking engagements saying that they're still going through the cracks, or people don't understand what autism is. I had a lady from the States say she read my book flying home. She finished it when she flew home, saying, "You've given me a whole new enlightenment on autism and what it's about." She says, "With you and what you did and your daughter," she says, "my mind has just got a whole different avenue." So I really think that's important when you are writing a book, especially with it being about a life with you and a child, or the scenario around what it is to really make sure you've got the core of, or the essence of it, and then start going through your life journey. That's what I did. I took out scrapbooks, journals, everything. I just started putting them all together, and then I went, oh, like Brer Rabbit had all these different scrapbooks from every year, because you feel so bad. I was a single parent. I had to work, right? And I just went through them, and all of a sudden these memories started flooding, good and bad, but they all started coming through.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So journals and
scrapbooks, even pictures, Melody.
Pictures, anything you have, go look at it. And one thing I really liked what you said was, writing, if your child has autism and you're writing a book about autism, or substitute autism for whatever is going on in your life that the public has misconceptions about.
Yes.
Whatever it happens to be, right?
Yes.
Writing for that community is essential, but also remembering that the general public can read it and lose those misconceptions through reading it.
Yes, I even had a police officer read it. He came to me, he goes, "Well, you helped me out," because sometimes you see on the internet and you hear around where young kids are not being treated well or even beaten because of their autism. They can't help it. Do you know what? I remember, so here's something that I remembered, and it's in my book. I remember when I used to take Jenny out, she would always be routine, right? If we went to a walk to the park, she'd always have to step over the stones. If we went a certain driving way, we had to drive that same way. If we went to the grocery store, had to do the aisles. I remember one time being in Safeway, this was in the Okanagan, and Jenny had a fit because I accidentally went on the wrong way, and the fit was on. Now, Jenny would fling herself on the floor. She would bite herself, hit herself, scream herself. It was not the nicest thing to watch, but she couldn't help it. And I remember these two older women coming up to me and saying, "Your daughter is so bad, and you're not a very good mother." And first time, this was when it first started happening, and I was in tears. I said, "I'm so sorry." But then I was going, "But she can't help it. She has autism." I realized there are people, when they don't know, they just think it's a bad kid. But it's really, after a while, Melody, I just stopped because I knew who she was.
Yeah.
So I had to stop myself, in explaining all the time. So things like that, journey me back into the book, and medical reports, school reports I even went through, and I bring them up in the book. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can go down that bring a really realistic but an engaging approach to show the journey you went through and why your story needed to get out there and be heard.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you, Janet. I wonder, talking about your story, back to your story, do you have an excerpt you could read to us?
Yes, I've just got a couple of little ones here, and I'd like to read them out. Thank you for letting me do this. The first excerpt, and the reason I'm reading this is I did mention it when we talked, and it's a little bit of Chris, my son Chris. And I really feel siblings need to be more heard in the autistic community, because I don't think they are. They're kind of a little bit left out. So Chris really didn't like the way people reacted or made comments about Jenny when she became upset about a scenario and had a fit in public. He knew she was a sweetheart and not the bad girl strangers would assume she was. One night I took them both out for supper. It had been a while and we wanted to try again, as Jenny needed to adjust to being out in public. Unfortunately, Jenny was not at all comfortable in the restaurant. Chris and I thought maybe it was the lights, the volume of noise, the unfamiliar surroundings and people. She had very bad sensitivity issues. We were trying to settle her down with her favorite stuffed toy and coloring books, but she just grabbed everything and climbed under the table. People were giving us odd looks, and we did our best to coax Jenny out so she could join us and eat her food, but she was becoming increasingly upset. Chris finally looked at me and said, "It's okay, Mom, you eat." He joined Jenny under the table, I tried to do this without crying, and made her feel comfy by calmly talking to her and playing with her for a bit. Slowly, he got her to come out and sit with us, holding her as she started to eat alongside him. I looked at him and thought, how fortunate I am to have a wonderful son like this. How lucky Jenny is to have a brother like Chris. I was moved to tears, and the picture of the two of them together that day will be forever etched in my mind. He didn't care what other people thought and how they were staring at us. He only wanted to make sure his little sister and his mom were okay. He reassured me that those people were just cruel and ignorant. But he says it's because they didn't understand. That's what he says nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get there.
Oh no, me too. My God.
Sorry, everybody, didn't mean to make you cry. This is happy crying though. It's happy crying. Although those people were not nice in the restaurant. And then the other one I'd like to mention, it's short and sweet. Lisa Balcom was Jenny's learning resource teacher in high school. She was very good with Jenny, very caring, very giving. We were very fortunate in both Jenny's elementary and high school. We had a great collaboration of people. And Lisa says, Jenny's case manager, had been told Jenny came with a label. Don't like that label word, and though she agreed that Jenny didn't talk much, she maintained that Jenny listened very well. Lisa said when Jenny spoke, she spoke with purpose and wisdom, choosing her words carefully. She also said that Jenny took a different path, not the one expected. She would choose her path carefully, always keeping her final destination in mind. And even when the path appeared too steep or treacherous, Jenny forged on. One perspective that Lisa shared about Jenny, one that is my favorite, was that she thought the label should have said, "The best is yet to come." Lisa added that she was very thankful to have known Jenny, and that Jenny reminds her every day that a story is not written until the author writes it, and Jenny is a great writer. And how ironic that she is now a writer, because you know what, Melody? When Jenny was in grade 4, they were doing stories where they had to do stories. And you know what her teacher told me? She said, Jenny will never get or ever understand how to do the beginning, middle, and end of a story. And now she's a best-selling award-winning author. So never say never.
That's crazy. I'm so glad that Jenny didn't listen to them, and that she became an animator and an author and awesome contributing human. That's really amazing. Janet, where can people get a hold of you, and where can they buy your book?
Well, you can get a hold of me at my email, which is janetwall@telus.net. So JanetWal@telus.net. You can get our books at Amazon. You can get our books, Barnes & Noble, Red Toque, Kobo, Ingram Sparks. We have both the ebook and the written book. You can also get them from us. On our website, there's a spot that you can go to, and it's janetwall.wixsite.com at Autism Connects. So because then we can sign them for them, give her special bookmarks, send them out. So there's that way as well. Yeah.
Jenny's books are there as well.
Jenny's books are there as well. She has her own website, but if people want it from me, I can always let them know about her. So yeah, we're excited about her sequel coming out. We let it go for a year. We're going to do it last year, but with COVID, we just didn't think it was right timing. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. And this is her second in a trilogy, is it not?
Yes, she's already on the third. She's doing a script for the first. She got another book outside of this one. She just did an interview for an animation job with a studio, and she's also doing background acting. I wonder who she reminds you of.
Yeah, she's go, just like no, exactly. So all of that information for anyone watching will be in the description. How to get a hold of Janet, how to buy her books, how to buy Jenny's books, and Janet, thank you so much for sitting with me today. And
thank you.
It means the world to me, and I think it will mean the world to a lot of other people who, parents, we want to write these stories, yet we want to be respectful. But we also want to honor our children and change the world, damn it, right? So thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. And one day when you want to talk, we'll do a thing on book signings, because we're missing them so much right now, Jenny and I. And you're right, we're called the Queen of Book Signings because we love doing them. And I can give you an avenue, and if you're by yourself, because Jenny and I work as a team. I go work around the store and she stays at the table, but there's a way you can do that if you're a single writer too. So yeah.
Perfect. You know what? I promise the authors listening, we'll get to that one day. And
for sure.
Janet has a brilliant system. But in the meantime, thank you, Janet, for being here with me today, and enjoy the rest of this sunny day.
Thank you, Melody. I really appreciate you giving me the time. It's been always, as usual, a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.